On today's show, why did Brad Lambert slip in the 2022 NHL draft, and will a signature Trevor Zegras move revolutionize the way that NHL teams defend? All that and more on Locked On NHL Prospects.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this podcast, I break down everything prospects related for you Monday to Friday, 5 days a week. And my name is Hadi Kalakesh. I'm a scout and NHL prospects analyst across multiple platforms, including this one. And I've got a good one for you today. First, Brad Lambert's off to a great start in the AHL after being one of the last cuts of the preseason among 2022 eligibles. And we're going to take a look at why he slipped all the way to 30th overall to the Jets. Then we'll take a look at Connor Bedard's latest 5-point night, his recent scoring tear in the WHL, and what that implies compared to other prospects, not just in his league, but in other leagues and how they've been performing. And finally, we're gonna finish off with a really great topic: the popularization of the lacrosse move by Trevor Zegras and Andrei Svechnikov. I think could lead to a massive shift in teams' defensive formations, especially since more and more prospects have the skill to pull it off in every draft class. So let's get right into it with Brad Lambert. He started off the 2022 year as a surefire number 2 overall pick. There weren't many doubts about him heading into the 2021-22 season. A lot of people had him already pinned as the second overall pick after Shane Wright. And he just started slipping massively out of draft rankings. I saw some rankings that had him outside of the first round entirely. Now, he stayed at number 11 on my rankings. He ended up there as the final rankings came out. I just saw enough skill from him that I had trouble projecting him as anything less than a borderline top 10 pick. There were still some doubts in my mind. He wasn't a bona fide top 10 pick because of certain issues regarding some decision-making issues that I saw throughout the year, things that I saw in his game that were sort of doubty in my mind. I had a lot of trouble sort of wrapping my head around why they were happening. But he was higher on other rankings. I saw him in the top 5 on a couple scouts' personal rankings. So there was definitely some value there. And just to share with you a quick anecdote from my time at the NHL draft, one thing I noticed is when the Jets picked up Brad Lambert at 30th overall, I was right behind the Colorado Avalanche table. Like Joe Sakic was right in my field of view. I had the entire scouting table right there for the Avalanche, and immediately when his name is called, the entire table looked disappointed and started scratching a name off their list. So I'm pretty sure that the Avalanche were high on Brad Lambert. He would have definitely been their pick if he had slipped a couple picks slower. So, seeing that, I started sort of watching back some Brad Lambert tape and paying close attention to the tactics and formations of his team and why he wasn't sort of performing up to par. So I'll sort of break down what happened with him. So he headed into that year. I think he had 17 points in 40-ish games the year before in the Liga as a draft -1 player. He headed into his draft year. He ended the season with 10 points in 49 games across 2 teams. He played for Jyväskylä and the Lahti Pelicans in the Liga. So he first did not look good. He was making strange decisions on and off the puck, which left scouts kind of perplexed because he really looked much better in international competition. But when it came to Liga play against men, it's sort of like his decision-making would change. I had an inkling that maybe it was a coaching thing. Maybe his coaches were telling him to play a certain way, because there were a lot of strange coaching decisions happening in the Finnish Liga. For example, when he was playing with Lahti after he demanded a trade, which we'll get you in a second, when he started playing with Lahti, they were running a 5-man line in transition. So when they would transition offensively, the defensemen would join all 3 forwards, and all 5 of them would just stand in the line and exchange quick back to forth passes and end it with a dump in, which was just an extremely strange tactic to me. And it was really weird to see him in that system because especially he was placed on the wing and he's a natural center. So he was a wing in a dump and chase system when he's a natural center who excels in possession. So the fit was terrible for him. What happened was he barely got puck possession during any given shift. He was tasked with blowing the zone early and tipping the puck into the offensive zone as his primary role offensively. So he'd spend a lot of time chasing the puck and not a lot of time with it. And the thing with Brad Lambert is the best thing he's good at is getting pucks in the defensive zone, skating them into the offensive zone, and creating off the rush. That's his main strength. That's his main asset. That was completely eliminated from his game in his draft year because of the tactics that he was playing in. So that really played into it a lot. He started slipping a lot because teams were seeing a player who just wasn't making the decisions that he wanted to make, a player who was frustrated, and especially he demanded a trade halfway through the season, which for NHL teams usually is a red flag. If you have a draft year prospect playing for a men's team and demanding a trade, they see that as sort of arrogance, as sort of selfishness, and etc. But I think Lambert was in a situation where he was aware that he wasn't in a favorable situation playing on the wing in a dump and chase system as a natural center who loves to have the puck and excels with it. He was just not placed in a favorable environment to succeed. And it was, all the tools were there with Brad Lambert. He's got excellent skating. I can talk about his skating stride for hours. Honestly, it's him and Frank Nazar were the two best skaters in the 2022 draft. His ankles, his knees, and his hips are extremely flexible and stack well on top of another. So his ankle is flexible enough that his knees bend above his toes, which creates a spring-like motion in his stride and makes him push off of each stride really strongly. He's got almost impeccable mechanics, almost impeccable technique. And on top of that, his upper body stays stable through the entire thing. So he has no trouble making plays at high speeds, high skill plays at high speeds when he's skating with the puck at his top pace, and that's excellent. A player who's able to chain together plays at their top speed is always a good sign. You look at Matt Barzal, who has an excellent skating stride with a stable upper body. Brad Lambert reminds me a lot of him, and that's a very positive thing. Matt Barzal, I don't think I would trust other than Jack Hughes. I don't think I would trust Jack Hughes and Connor McDavid are the only two guys that I would trust more than Matt Barzal to skate the puck into the offensive zone. His transition numbers are excellent. It's because of that amazing skating stride and that stable upper body, which help him a lot making plays at high speeds, understanding his surroundings and making the right decisions at a quick pace. You need a stable upper body and a great skating mechanics, and that's exactly what Brad Lambert has. So he's got the basic tools. On top of that, he's got amazing stick handling. He's one of the best stick handlers in that draft as well. His shot is really good as well. He's got decent playmaking. All the basic tools that you need from a play driving offensive center were there. All he needs is some refining, just putting together the tools in projectable ways. This might sound very similar when I'm talking about, Brad Lambert not being in a favorable environment and having all the tools required. If it does sound similar, it's because I discussed this in last episode and I was mentioning Mitch Brown's article on Elite Prospects about Cale Makar. Cale Makar had all the tools in the world. Skating, stick handling, shot, all the things that you need, but he wasn't putting them together in projectable ways. The thing with Cale Makar is he was in a very favorable environment for his development. The things that he learned at different stages of his development were due to where he was playing. A play driving center, a puck possession center, you put him on the wing and expect him to do well, it's just not good for his development. So I'm really glad that Winnipeg took a shot on him and signed him out of preseason. Again, he looked really impressive in preseason. One of the most impressive 2022 draft prospects in the preseason there. And he earned his contract, and now he's playing with the Manitoba Moose. He's got 3 points in 4 games in the AHL so far. He's off to a great start, and he looks excellent. So when I mentioned last episode, the quote from Mitch Brown, where he mentions the 3 elements of player development that work together to make a player better, which is tools, adaptability, and favorable environment. But Lambert's got the tools, and it's still too early to talk about adaptability. There's no way to sort of gauge it accurately until maybe 2-3 seasons from now, whether he's got the adaptability required to absorb information at higher levels and grow from his experiences and take the next step. Is still early. But what's for sure is now he's in a favorable environment in a league where he's going to be playing a lot with the puck, where he's going to be having a lot of offensive possession time. He's going to be trusted on a power play, stuff like that. I mean, talk about a favorable environment. For me, the Manitoba Moose are a great favorable environment for Brad Lambert to absorb information and grow as a prospect. So if you want him to put the tools together in projectable ways, you play him in the favorable environment that Winnipeg has created for him by signing him and sticking him in the AHL for the season. So Lambert has set himself up excellently, and I think that he might make a lot of people look foolish for letting him slip to 30th overall. Again, he was my 11th overall prospect in this draft, and looking back, I'm still high on the guys that were ahead of him, but man, he's looking really, really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the next few years. So now we're going to head into our next segment where I talk about Connor Bedard and his recent 5-point game and his recent scoring streak in the WHL right after these messages. Do you like betting? BetOnline.net is your number one source for any wager that interests you. From the NFL to the NBA to the MLB, and even NCAA football, UFC, golf, anything you like, they have you covered. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in depth analysis on every game on their website or app. They're, of course, a great source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting so you can keep up with bets as they unfold. They've got up to the minute scores for every sport out there. They're the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. All right, so the prospect everyone seems to be constantly talking about. I guess it's my turn again. Connor Bedard. He just had a 5-goal game in a 7-4 win for the Regina Pats. He's got 12 points in his last 3 games. And this isn't even his first 5-point game of the season. This isn't even his first 5-point game in the last 15 days. He had a 5-point game 10 days ago. So yeah, 12 points in 3 games for Connor Bedard. He's up to 14 goals, 22 assists for 36 points in 17 games played. He's over 2 points per game right now in the WHL. And I never try to look at players in isolation because that sort of omits other other areas that are important to scout, such as, are there other prospects that are close to him in terms of points? Are there other prospects, especially on his team, that are helping him produce these kinds of numbers and are similar to him in terms of points per game? That's just not the case for Connor Bedard. He is leading the WHL by 8 points now. That's first. Second, he's leading his team by 17 points right now. He's the Regina Pats captain, and no one is even close to him in terms of points. 17 points ahead of anyone else on the team. He is on a tear. He is carrying that team. In a word, I'll repeat it again. Connor Bedard is a generational prospect. He can take over any given game and do it in a flash before you even notice it. Your team might be losing. You want a guy to get out there and get you a couple points that you probably didn't deserve based on your team play. It's Connor Bedard. Just throw him out there. He'll get something done. It's just a matter of time. He covered so much ice in that game with his skating, his ability to map out the ice and be at the right spots. He would lead the rush and then come back as the first man on the back check. He's extremely responsible as well. And not only does he cover much ice with his skating, his elite puck skills will carry him through it and do the rest for him. He's not just going to, he's not just going to lead the rush with his skating. He's going to finish plays with his elite shot. He's going to stick handle through players and set up offensive possession easily. He can pass through sticks like they're not even there and connect with teammates in high danger areas. He is a complete offensive player. I mean, honestly, I haven't seen anything like this since Austin Matthews and Connor Bedard in 2015 and 2016. I mean, this is a generational prospect. There's no doubt about it. And on top of that, he's improving defensively. He's lifting sticks. He's getting under players' bodies and cutting off their hands along the boards. And he's still very strong physically for a 5'10" player. I mean, I've seen him put 6'2" prospects on the ice when he's trying to barrel through them by stick handling and it doesn't work and they end up boxing him out. He'll just throw a reverse hit in and they're gone. And he can just go ahead and pick up the puck as if nothing happened. I think if you stick Connor Bedard in the NHL right now, he could easily get a decent chunk of points. Maybe not a point per game, but something like 60 would be pretty much attainable for a player like this. I don't think there are many areas in this game that are lacking. This is a complete player who's got, especially in the offensive zone. I don't think there's anything you can do to stop him from doing what he wants to do. So I'm really, really impressed by Connor Bedard. And if you compare him to other players, like for me, Adam Fantilli is an excellent prospect, and I've mentioned this before. But in any other year, he would probably be a first overall pick. But in a year that's this deep, I just don't see it. I don't see how we could dethrone Matvei Michkov and Connor Bedard in terms of skill. And he's doing extremely well. He's got 20 points in 10 games played for the University of Michigan in the NCAA as a 17, 18-year-old. Draft year players usually don't see the NCAA. They need to be of a certain age. Usually, I think they have to be born before December of that year to be playing in the NCAA. So Fantilli is already a strange case in that scenario. We had the recent year with Owen Power and Matty Beniers and Kent Johnson, but that was kind of an exception. They were all late birthdays who got their opportunity, at the University of Michigan and played together and played really well, and etc. But it's very, very rare to see a prospect earn 2 points a game in the NCAA. But I'm still not as high on him, even though the points are through the roof, not just because of what I see on the ice, but also because he's only, quote unquote, only 5 points behind his teammate Mackie Samoskevich for the University of Michigan. And he's only leading the league by 1 point. Compared to Connor Bedard, who's leading his team by 17 points and leading the league by 8. Of course, the NCAA is much harder competition than the WHL. But at the end of the day, you've got one prospect who's dominating on all facets and leading his team and his league by far. And you've got Adam Fantilli, who's doing extremely well. Again, any other year, he would be a number one overall pick. But in this year, I don't really see it. You've got a prospect here who's got 20 points in 10 games, but is only 1 point in the lead and only 5 points ahead of his nearest teammate on a team in the University of Michigan who is absolutely stacked. I mean, Luke Hughes, Seamus Casey on defense. You've got Rutger McGorty. You've got Dylan Duke. You've got, of course, Mackie Samoskevich. The list goes on in terms of the University of Michigan prospects who've got NHL potential. This is a strong, strong team. And Fantilli's leading the charge, yes, but he's also got a great support cast, especially on the power play. Man, their power play is absolutely astounding. And a lot of his points have been coming at 5-on-4, and it's because he plays such a pivotal role on their power play as their trigger man. And obviously that team with that much skill could put anyone there, but it still does help to have an elite distributor like Luke Hughes or Seamus Casey at the point to get you the puck right in your wheelhouse for a one-timer, or, cross-seam options, net front options that are extremely solid at what they do, like Rutger McGorty and Dylan Duke, who can tap in your rebounds and stuff like that. It helps a lot. Connor Bedard is pretty much a one-man show in Regina right now. I mean, I like Tanner Howe, but he's 17 points behind Connor Bedard for a reason. Bedard is elite in every facet and outshines him by a very, very large margin. I don't see many other prospects in other leagues that are leading the league in points as draft year players. There's Ethan Gauthier, who's got his fair share of points in the QMJHL, but he's nowhere near the lead. And in the OHL, I mean, Callum Ritchie's below a point per game right now. And you don't really have any standouts in that sense. The highest score in the OHL has 2 points per game. It's Ty Voigt, I believe, still. And I mean, no one in this draft class is near him at the top of that list. Meanwhile, Connor Bedard is over 2 points per game in a tougher league to score in the WHL and is leading the charge. He really, really genuinely looks like a superstar. I don't think there's anything to do to dethrone him from the number 1 overall pick this year. I don't care how good Adam Fantilli is. I don't care how good Matvei Michkov is. For me, Connor Bedard is a notch above everyone else in this draft class and should remain that way. So that's it for that segment. Now we're going to move on to Trevor Zegras' signature move and how it could revolutionize NHL defending right after these messages. All right, so this is Locked On NHL Prospects. If you like what you see, make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you like what you're hearing, make sure to follow us and make us your first listen of the day on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, from Spotify to Odyssey to Apple Podcasts. You can find us anywhere, and it's much appreciated when we're your first listen of the day. Now, for our final segment of the day, Trevor Zegras almost scored another lacrosse goal last night, swinging behind the net and picking up the puck in one motion and almost stuffing it in the top corner. Well, he actually succeeded. He scored on that goal, but the goal was offside. But I do want to talk about how revolutionary it could be to have the back of the net become a dangerous area in hockey. The answer to that is simple. In the defensive zone, most coaches, if not every coach, is going to advise their defensemen to cover the net front when their man goes behind the net. So they're basically going to let the player that they're supposed to be covering swing behind the net, and they're going to cover the net front because obviously the net front is where pucks can be dangerous, right? If they pass in front of the net and the player's available, that's a goal. Well, what could change with the lacrosse move is now the back of the net is a dangerous area that needs to be respected. So that's going to change. Coaches aren't always going to tell their defensemen to not chase their player behind the net regardless. You're going to see more and more tactics that involve chasing the forward behind the net or racing them to the far post to make sure they can't stuff it in with a lacrosse move. And just like in chess, in hockey tactics, when you cover one threat, usually another one opens up. And chasing a player behind the net to avoid them stopping and then setting up in order to scoop the puck up and put it in is going to open up other opportunities. Same for trying to race them to the far post. So, for example, in the case where the defenseman is chasing you behind the net, it's going to open up opportunities to sneak a backdoor pass behind the back to a sneaking forward, like we saw with Patrick Kane do a lot. Teams started accounting for that and having their defensemen put their stick at the short side as they're swinging, towards a player and chasing him before they stop at the near posts. They started putting their sticks in the position so that they could avoid that pass going through. So that opportunity can open up if the defenseman's chasing you behind the net. Also, if the defenseman's racing you to the net front and trying to keep his stick up so that he can avoid you stuffing it in the top corner, he's going to leave the bottom of the ice open, and that can open up opportunities for a slip pass into the slot to an open teammate for a tap in. So again, just like in chess, in hockey tactics, when one opportunity is covered, another one opens up. It's extremely rare to cover all circumstances in hockey because it's such a chaotic, high-speed sport that something's going to open up if you've got the brains and the awareness for it. So where does this tie into prospects? Well, every single year, there are more and more prospects who have the skill to do the lacrosse move. It started with Andrei Svechnikov, who had the elite skill and the elite puck handling understanding in order to scoop a puck up, to understand its weight properly, to scoop it up in one motion and stuff it into the net. Sidney Crosby is able to do it, but before they were extremely rare. Before Andrei Svechnikov, I believe Andrei Svechnikov was the first lacrosse move successfully performed in the NHL. The first lacrosse goal successfully, performed in the NHL. So it really started officially with Andrei Svechnikov making the back of the net that threat. Obviously, there was Wayne Gretzky, but not in the sense where he was a goal-scoring threat. You could still cover the net front and cover the options. He wasn't able to score from behind the net directly. As long as you were covering his access to the slot, either by skating or by passing, you were good. But now players are able to shoot from behind the net. So, it started with Svechnikov. Then you had Trevor Zegras, and there are more and more prospects who have the puck skills to do it. I think Connor McDavid could definitely pull off a lacrosse move. And now you look at this year, and man, Matvei Michkov has already pulled it off multiple times. Connor Bedard absolutely has the skill, and I've seen him do it once. Then you've got players such as Andrew Crystal, who I believe has the high-end skill to perform. And I think Adam Fantilli's done it as well. And then you've got Zach Benson and Braden Yeager, who definitely have the stick handling skill to pick it up. They haven't done it yet, and I don't think I've seen them do it once, but they definitely have the puck skills to perform the move. So that's 6 players who in this draft year who could almost definitely perform this skill. Now, let's say 5 years from now, half the first round can do it. You might end up with a very different NHL by the time they all reach that NHL level. If half of every first round can perform this move, it's going to become a regular occurrence in the NHL. And given the high skill, high speed direction that the NHL is taking, especially with its scouting in recent years, that's a very, very likely possibility. So you could end up with the lacrosse move being something that every team has one guy on their team who can perform that move and be a threat from behind the net, it's going to affect hockey tactics. I am very excited for the possibilities that could unfurl from the lacrosse move becoming popularized. And I've heard talks of it, debates of it becoming an illegal move, especially on the side of goaltenders who do not like this move at all. Um, I'm completely against that. I think it could add an excellent variable to hockey that is extremely required in order to make the sport even more enticing, even more exciting. I think every lacrosse move is going to draw more fans into hockey. And if you want to grow the game, make it fun to watch. So the direction that the NHL is headed is promising to me. And the fact that more prospects are coming out every year with the capabilities, with the understanding of puck weight and the daringness to pull off a lacrosse move mid motion without even needing to stop, it's extremely exciting. I mean, this is a move that is extremely difficult, that is extremely entertaining to watch. I mean, Trevor Zegras has drawn fans to the NHL. He's on the cover of NHL 23 for a reason. He is drawing seats in Anaheim, where it's very tough to do, and for good reason. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. This move, if it continues to develop into a regular occurrence, not only is going to be good for the sport in terms of adding variables to sort of stagnant tactics, but also is going to draw more seats in. So that sums it up for today's episode. If you liked what you're hearing, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on all your podcasting platforms and make us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you next time.